Dear chess friends, hello again. Welcome to our new video. Well, I will here present game help Magnus Carlsen to retain his World Chess Champion title in 2016 in match he played against Sergei Karjakin. As you probably know, match from 12 games. All games were didn't draw, but in game number 8, Karjakin won with black pieces, and that was game number 10. One of two last attempts for Carlsen to equalize the match, to equalize the score. Well, that is game number 10, and one of two chances to win the game with white pieces. He decided to play e4, and e5 happened. And after knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, knight f6, Sergei is ready to go for the Boroljub, but Magnus' strategy was to not to go for well explored patterns, so he decided just to go for peaceful maneuvering, where with keeping pieces on the board, with keeping material on the board, he will try to put also some sort of psychological pressure to his opponent. Bishop c5, c3, white prepares patiently d4 in some moment, like in so popular joke piano. He delays the action with d4 for a time he will have all pieces perfectly active. After castling, bishop g5, that is a bit unexpected. I think after castling and knight bd2 everything would be normal, but bishop g5 is rarely played, and Karjakin decided to react immediately with h6, and after bishop h4, to avoid any complications, Karjakin played bishop e7. That's just a safe and natural approach, because, you know, black cannot forever simply live with that pin, annoying pin. g5 is not an option, because after bishop g3, d6 and knight bd2, there will be some weaknesses, and it should not be good to advance that pawn, because white did not castle yet. Maybe white may chance to strike with h4 in some good moment. So black decided to go for the safest, bishop e7. He would be satisfied with a draw, evidently. After that, having edge in the match, he will have only two remaining games to get the World Championship match title. So we can just understand his strategy to avoid any risk in that game. Bishop e7, castling. Here, bishop taking and b takes, knight e5 wins a pawn, but after knight e4, powerful strike, black is better. That's one of well-known possibilities. So here, after castling, black played d6. Now taking on c6 will lead r to completely different position, where evidently white has nothing. Statically, he has better pawn structure, strictly from static point of view, but bishop on h4 is in wrong place, and there is nothing he can do to put some serious problems in front of black. So simply he decided not to take. After castling d6, knight bd2, knight h5. Now inventive play by Karjakin. He wants to trade the bishops. That's desirable exchange. Bishop e7 is restricted by the pawns, and knight goes to f4. White allows that, and now evidently black is out of problems, but the point is still Magnus Carlsen achieved position not very often played, and he wanted to surprise opponent. That was his reason for choosing that opponent. Of course, I think here black is already better. After knight f4, simple and strong. f5 may be played, but still, after such variations shown later by Lester, so there is possibility for him to organize king h7 with maybe attack on the with launching pawn g5, g4, but still looks like position more complicated. That's something white wanted to avoid. So black played knight f4, simple and strong. Knight e3, queen f6. There is threat in some moments to play knight h3 if to deflect the pawn if white queen is not on d1 to protect the knight on f3. So after g3, normally knight h3, king h1, that's a bit passive, but okay, we should trust to Carlsen. Maybe he didn't want to play this because after knight e7 and knight g6 there can be some tactical shots of knight f4, and that's why Carlsen preferred after knight h3 check to play king h1. Knight e7, knight goes to g6 anyway, bishop c4, bishop goes to better diagonal, preventing f5 in some moment, and after c6 we can see that black prevents potential knight d5 if knight comes to g6. Bishop b3, eliminating some dangerous d5 advance, knight g6, and after that white played queen e2. Patient maneuver by Carlsen, a5, black wants to show some activity and Carlsen gains space there. Now he wants to show that a5 pawn can be in some moment potentially weak. There will be knight c4 option because you know all black pieces are somehow stuck on the king side, and maybe in some moment pawn a5 will lack the support. So after bishop e6, and I cannot admit that's good because that is too risky, opening f-file I don't think, but there is some trap Magnus prepared. Well, after knight d2 he offered pawn f2. Well, after knight f2 there is interesting possibility of king g1, and now after knight h3 back, king g2, there is attack on the queen and on the knight. Black can go for this, but as you can see there, it's not clear. It looks like black has some material advantage, some material plus the rook and two pawns against the two knights, but the point is after queen g4 and let's say king h1, rook g1, knight f3, white may set strong blockade, and black was afraid white cavalry can occupy so important spots on the king side like f3, f5, g6 and so on. Well, Carlsen decided to play without risk, Karjakin decided to play here without risk, and he played d5. He wants to open the position to get rid of double pawns. Of course white captures, and now instead of the safest and the best move f3, just to eliminate all threats, Carlsen decided again to provoke a reaction of Karjakin, queen h5, and now that is a mistake because you know Carlsen desperately needed to win that game to equalize as sooner as possible, and here knight f2 was missed by Karjakin. So strange, and I must say, as big fan of Sergei Karjakin, unfortunately he did not play knight f2. I would rather like to see someone else on chess throne, but knight f2 did not happen. But maybe even that will not help Karjakin to reach the title. Who knows? What's going on? Why knight f2? Well, after king g1 there is fine tactic queen g5. Attacking the queen, offering queen exchange, attacking the knight, and if white takes, knight escapes and black is just pawn up with a better position. After king g2, knight g5 and black is pawn up. He cannot lose that game. If king g2, what's going on if king g2? Well, if king g2, there is so beautiful move, perhaps missed by Karjakin in that moment, That's this move, king f7. What's the point? The point is black threatens now to play knight f4, so that any move will lead to losing the queen after that. And if white plays queen, if white plays queen e2 there, okay, there is knight h4, and that would lead to perpetual after king g1, knight h3, king h1, and knight f2. Not queen f2, of course, knight f2. What if white takes? Well, that would be a horrible mistake. After knight h4, if white takes, there is queen g6, and black is completely winning. So that's missed by Karjakin. Yeah, king f7. Now king g1, of course, will lead to perpetual after queen f6. There is nothing, and there is again threat of queen g5. Okay, that is very fine tactic, and I have no doubt that was missed by Karjakin. So what happened in the game? Instead of that, after queen h5, he played knight back, and now that helps Carlsen to retain initiative. After h4, black decided not to go back. He played knight f3, but that happened exactly what Magnus wanted to happen. Rook f7, rook fe1. As you can see, black has double pawns on e file, where black pawn should stay on d6. That would be more flexible. Now white threatens in some moment to capture, and that pawn on e5 will become weak. More flexible pawn structure, better knight, and that is serious advantage for white. If someone may defend that position against Carlsen, that is definitely Karjakin, very well known as a master of defense, but still there are a lot of things white can try to do, and still black is practically forced to go to long-term passive defense. If rook a f8, which would be more normal, white can simply play just knight d1 and to organize rook a3, rook b3, or maybe pressure on e file. He can regroup with his rooks, or maybe rook f1 can be played. I suggest not to play this because there is tactical shot of knight f4. Well, black will exchange some material, and that would be good for him. So black decided to play h5. He wanted once and forever to stop white expanding on the king side. White knight cannot easily go to g5, but the point is that easily will actually happen. As you can see, white is able to go for some long regrouping, starting with knight f1, and after king f8, knight d2, knight goes to g5. Black allowed that. Of course, here after king e7, knight f3 won't be good because black has rook a f8 with a winning position. After that, there will be d4 with crashing after rook comes to f2. That would be bad for white. But after king d6, I do not know if that is inaccuracy, but rook a f8 here can be met with something like rook b1 with preparing b4. So black decided for a while to keep rook on a8 and to allow knight comes to g5. Now rook e7, rook a1, rook f8. Okay, prophylactic black doubling on e file to protect pawn e5, and also white double on e file, getting ready to take in some moment. But how to regroup, how to set some problems to black? Carlsen goes back, knight f3, and improving the position of knight h8 is excellent. Black will play knight f7 anyway, and Carlsen here goes for concrete play with d4. We'll see soon the point. Black must take, and now knight takes, g6. That move protects square f5, and black is ready to play this, but of course now Carlsen plays rook e3, threatening rook f3. Now if e5, white will have possibility to play knight b3, getting tempo, and after b6 there will be rook d1. Now white will transfer pressure on d5 pawn. If black protects a5 with rook a8, once again rook d1 with rook d3. Now pawn d5 would be seriously weakened, and that's why black refrained from moving e5. He played just knight f7, allowing white to play e5, and now that's serious advantage for white. Rook comes to f6. Black wants to plumber that position on the king side to set knight on f5, but that would be too late. Here a reasonable solution was to play c5, and after knight b5 maybe rook c8, preparing play on the queen side, maybe in some moment with d4, you know. But knight h6 cannot be bad. Rook f6 anyway, rook g7. That rook is not dangerous on f6, it is rather annoying. Black can play knight g8, b4, and after ab cb we see that Carlsen is ready to play on both flanks. On king side he can try f3 g4, on queen side he can play b5 with or without a5, you'll see, and that is already extremely unpleasant position for black. His pieces are somehow cramped, and whatever he tries to do will face huge problems. He cannot move the king, he cannot move rook e8 because pawn e6 is hanging. He must play knight g8, rook goes back, knight h6 and a5. Of course black blocks f5 with knight f5, but Carlsen keeps dominant knight. Exchanging the knight would lead white, would give white huge problems. After that black is ready to play rook g4. Of course white knight is more influential and he wants to play knight c5. Now white transfers activities on the queen side, knight c5. Again there is annoying pressure on e6, king b8. Black wants to organize defense on the 7th rank, and after rook b1, king a7. White must play b5 in some moment. a6 will not bring him anything because black will just continue b6. So white must prepare b5, and that's what he wants. First that to prevent knight d4. Without that move black would be able maybe to block position with this. So rook d3, rook c7, rook a3 now. Now white is ready to play this, knight d4, rook d1, and now if knight b5, white switches to the king side, rook f3 with devastating rook f6 will happen. If rook g7, rook f6, knight c7, now we see that after f4 white can prepare king f3, g4, because knight from there will never be able again to attack that rook because pawn e6 will fall. That would be absolutely winning position for white. So that's why moved his knight back. And after rook king h3, white decided to prepare g4 in some good moment. Now f3, white achieved a lot. Rook f7 and even rook d4. Now something like rook a f8 will give black nothing because just rook d3 and that pawn is again under attack. So knight f5 back, rook d2, rook h7. Black wants to get ready to meet white g4. Now that's not possible because pawn h4 will hanging, but white uses the fact black pieces are somehow deflected, they are more oriented to the king side, and rook b3 is his choice, so he finally prepares b5 in some good moment. Well, now that is one of favorite Magnus strategies. He likes to wait patiently for his opponent to crack while slowly improving his own position. And he was lucky that worked well that day for him. So rook h8, rook b1, rook h7, and finally b5. Black rooks are both on 7th rank and not so active, so there is not a move like rook c8 to undermine white knight. So after that, black must take, taking, and we can compare that position to some previous diagram, and you will see that white really achieved a lot. I think already black is in huge problem. His game is probably already lost because there is nothing really he can do. Rook b6 supporting paralyze, pawn e6 will fall sooner or later. Rook c7, black goes for counter chances with rook c3, but after knight a4 white keeps everything in control. Black activates the rook, but there is small tactics, and after that white takes the rook. There is threat of knight b5 and rook g8 knitting some mating net with rook g8, of course. After knight c7, king b8, knight b5, black wants to escape with the king. This move, rook f3, will not work because after a6 white will just win the game. So king c8 is the move was played, rook g6, and now white is 2 pawns up, 1 pawn falls, but extra pawn in that position is just enough to win the game. King g2, king escapes, king goes active, rook b3 and knight d6, that is the simplest. So the question is if that rook endgame is winning. Absolutely is, because white has active king and pawn h5 will fall inevitably. After rook goes to e3, white decided to advance, king c7, now capturing, and after rook d5 practically white forces black rook to go passive. It's not possible for black to go for any counter action because he can attack nothing, so pawn h5 must survive. But now Carlsen just activate his king. Black tried to move king to a6, where is nothing he can achieve. Of course, avoiding last trick, not king g6, because after rook g8 black still has chances to resist. While king f6, if rook g8 with counter attack, there is rook g5 and pawn h5 inevitably falls. In that moment, Carlsen won the game, Karjakin resigned, and I will say unfortunately, because once again, I will repeat, I'm a huge fan of Karjakin. Carlsen equalized the match and later won finally in tiebreak. That was very well deserved win by Carlsen. That was one of his brightest moments in chess career, but still I cannot understand his decision of Karjakin. Probably he just did not see he can force draw after knight f2. To be fair, there was not easy after king g2 to find move queen f7. Maybe he simply was not programmed to go strictly for a draw. Maybe he was just programmed his mind to play the best moves, and knight g5 objectively is not so much, let's say, worse move than knight f2, but knight f2 still should be preferred because that gives black at least draw. I hope, dear chess friend, you enjoyed that game. I wanted to enlighten that so important moment in chess history, helped Magnus Carlsen to retain his title, and I hope you will enjoy in our next videos. Well, wish you all the best and see you soon with our new material. Bye bye.